Department has delivered the results of its lengthy investigation into the Albuquerque Police Department, and it's not good. DOJ slammed APD for a pattern of excessive force, substandard training, and a lack of oversight, and officers' inability to deal with people suffering from mental health issues. Now begins negotiations between the city and DOJ. The idea is to reach a voluntary agreement to carry out reforms and systemic deficiencies inside APD. Now, joining us to talk about this and other news of the week, we welcome one of our line regulars, Laura Sanchez. She's an environmental and civil rights attorney who's also with the New Mexico Green Chamber of Commerce. Also joining us is line regular attorney Sophie Martin, who also teaches marketing communications with UNM's Anderson School of Management. Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group returns to the table as well. We welcome back this week our friend Janice Arnold-Jones, former state representative. Janice, interesting to lean into this DOJ press conference, which for us, as we sit here, happened just a few hours ago, so we're all just kind of downloading it now. Anything new for you in here? Anything unsaid you wanted to hear? Anything about the administration or APD you wanted to hear that you did not hear? What happened?
There was one thing that was unsaid that I think is very important, and that is how is this action by the DOJ with the city going to communicate with the citizens of Albuquerque? They can go in and fix all of this and do a good job, but if the citizens do not know, then we will not change. And I believe that the citizens truly want to support our police department, but the moral authority has been eroded almost irreparably.
Interesting. Now, when you say working closer with the community, if I'm hearing you correctly, what has to be done specifically? Is that a transparency issue to you? Or?
Not only a transparency, but there has to be a concentrated, concerted effort to report back to the community broadly on a regular basis and with certain short timelines. You can't just wait for a year for another report to come out. That will not be good enough, and it will not solve our problem.
Right. Laura, as we sit here again, we don't have the full benefit of a full Friday news cycle before this Friday evening broadcast, so we don't know if, in fact, something has changed about the idea of a federal monitor for this police department. As we sit here, it's under negotiation, as they say. Not that specifically, but all kinds of other things. Did you expect that to be settled before this all got announced Thursday morning?
Not really.
Okay.
I didn't expect that was going to be a settled issue. I hope that it's still something that is being discussed and considered and weighed, I think, on both sides, the benefits and the potential challenges of having that situation occur. But I think, what was notable for me is just that it's systemic deficiencies that they came up with, and I think it validates a lot of the concerns that the community has had for a long time about certain practices. And the fact that it was systemic, cited inadequate training, inadequate oversight, lack of community oversight, civilian oversight, and then also just failed accountability measures in general. I think a lot of that is are very serious parts of the investigation that need to be addressed. And I agree completely with Janice that there does need to be more participation from the community and a lot more explanation about how this will be addressed.
Interesting. Sophie, another word that came up, things are either constitutionally valid or they're not. And it got mentioned by the folks in the press conference today that, look, deadly force in an unconstitutional manner had been used.
Yes.
Very interesting. Because
both excessive and deadly force. Both excessive. And that really, that hammering, I thought, on the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, something really, I think, important happened in that DOJ press conference and in the report, which is a validation of the community's concerns.
Right.
And the force that they used in describing the constitutionality or unconstitutionality of the actions of APD, I thought lent incredible credibility to the public perception that this wasn't right, that the way APD has been working isn't right, and isn't right in a very big way.
Right. Right. Tom, they didn't really leave much to doubt when it came to that there were problems inside APD. Now it's the question of how. But one of the things specifically, and this goes to Janice's point earlier, in the quote from the folks was a broken police oversight system. Broken. Just absolutely broken. And everyone here has known that forever. But it took DOJ to say it out loud for us to get with this, didn't it? It's interesting.
There's many different parts of this that are fascinating to me because, but the community policing aspect, the community outreach, of the 45 different recommendations that were made, 4 or 5 of them dealt specifically with community policing. So it'll be interesting to see, or community outreach. It'll be interesting to see what happens. There's the myth, there's the legend, and there's the fact. And I think think we got a lot of fact today. It was purely, truly one-sided. And during the news conference, the Department of Justice did indicate that this is not a reflection of the entire department. And I think that that's the one thing that Mayor Barry and his team have before them is how do you communicate, how do you rebuild that trust?
Sure.
And that's not something that's done overnight. I mean, that's going to take a lot of looking at these 45 recommendations and saying, you know what, we need to, we've already made 20 different policy recommendations.
That's
now we
right.
have to implement even more.
That's right.
And
Please.
I was going to say, one of the important things, and I think I'm glad that you mentioned that this won't be fixed overnight, but also with any time you're looking at an institution or an organization that has systemic problems, there are problems that were not created overnight either. So I think that we often, and we've seen examples of this recently, where there's an immediate rush to blame and to blame one person or to blame, the mayor or the chief, and I think they bear responsibility, and it's important for them to take that responsibility and then be leaders in terms of turning this around. But I also think it's important to recognize that these are systemic problems that have been occurring for quite some time. So there's been, I think, a lack of focus on a lot of these areas for probably a long time, and several administrations possibly in terms of the chiefs. So it's important to recognize that, and then for all of us collectively to figure out how to improve the situation instead of assigning blame about what's been occurring.
Well, Janice, what was interesting also is I found it fascinating that a Department of Justice official stood in front of our community and talked about access to mental health care. You know what I mean? It's just a very interesting thing. Everything's on the table, it seems to me. And the message I heard from Ms. Samuels was, look, y'all, this is where it all starts. If you don't like the way your police department is acting, you need to start paying attention over here as well.
Absolutely, and in the case of Mr. Boyd, the first question I asked was, where's CIT? Clearly had not been called. We actually have trained officers that do this, but dealing with mental health issues is not only dangerous, but it's difficult. And you need to provide the resources to your police department, but the community also needs to know how to respond, how to be helpful, and we don't know that either. Communication, Tom, we need you.
So we have a little bit left here. I want to circle back to this idea that we don't know about yet of the federal monitor. Do you think this community would accept anything less than literally a federal takeover of this department at this point?
Well, so a federal monitor doesn't mean literally a federal takeover, and actually the Department of Justice, Ms. Samuels, made this point in the press conference that there's a difference. The monitor monitors and reports back, looks to see what's being done, what isn't being done, but doesn't control APD, doesn't control the police function within the city. And so there's a difference there. Now, do I think that that's necessary? I think for some parts of the Albuquerque community, yeah, that is what it's going to take, because they feel, and we have, unfortunately, to the communication issue, we have a pattern. I think it was former Chief Schultz saying there's nothing wrong with APD, everything's fine. There is a pattern of mistrust rooted in the actual actions of APD, the actual behaviors of APD, and in the communications coming from APD. I think that outside monitor is going to be key.
Interesting. Please.
I've said it on the show before, but good policy fosters good public relations. And the Department of Justice did a really good job in pointing out a lot of the policy deficiencies. The big question I have as a resident is, how on earth did this happen? I mean, how do we get so far off a particular course? Obviously, there are different approaches. And there are some through the different public hearings that have been raised, saying that they want to make the police chief a publicly a public office.
That's right.
And I don't necessarily agree with that. I know that's a topic for a different area, but without now that we have the recommendations, it's really the leadership now is with the city to say, here's the course we're going to plot and we're going to move forward. Because when in the absence of that, that's when you get everybody being armchair quarterbacks and saying, here's what I think.
That's right. That's right. Interesting, isn't it, that it was reported a couple days ago that DOJ took over 600 different inquiries from the community with their setup with the email and phone numbers and such, and they interviewed over 200. And I feel like, they got a good breath and take of the community and what was going on here. And I felt somewhat satisfied with what happened. Let's see what happens with this federal monitor, though. This is going to be very interesting to see. Coming up, we talked to a panel of mental health experts about the push for more services for those with mental illness in the wake of this APD controversy.